Welcome, restless souls. Before we dive into tonight's story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy these late-night tales of terror. Tonight, I'm sharing something that happened to me just last week, something that's made me question everything I thought I knew about live streaming. So dim the lights, get comfortable, and let me tell you about the night I joined a TikTok live that nearly destroyed my life. I'd been scrolling TikTok for hours, unable to sleep. After another brutal breakup, Sarah had left me 3 weeks prior, taking our shared apartment and most of my self-worth with her. I was crashing at my buddy Mike's place, spending my nights doom scrolling through endless videos on his couch, trying to numb the constant ache in my chest. It was 2:47 a.m. when I stumbled across the live stream. The username was simple: Whispers Softly. The thumbnail showed a dimly lit room with candles flickering in the background. What caught my attention wasn't the aesthetic, it was the viewer count. Only 12 people watching, but the comments were flying by so fast I could barely read them. "Join us, Tyler," appeared in the chat. My blood went cold. I'd never commented, never even liked a video on this account. How did they know my name? I glanced around Mike's dark living room, suddenly feeling exposed despite being alone. The blue glow from my phone screen felt harsh against my face. I should have closed the app. Instead, I tapped to join the live. The stream showed a young woman, maybe mid-20s, sitting cross-legged on what looked like a bedroom floor. Her dark hair fell across her face, obscuring her features. Behind her, the candles cast dancing shadows on bare walls. She wasn't speaking, just sitting perfectly still. "Welcome, Tyler," she said without looking at the camera. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it seemed to echo directly inside my head. "I've been waiting for you." The chat exploded with welcomes directed specifically at me. Users with names like Silent Watcher 3 and The Dark Between were greeting me like old friends. My hands trembled as I realized I recognized one of the usernames. "Sarah Loves You." It couldn't be her. Sarah hated TikTok, called it a waste of time. But there was her profile picture, the same photo we'd taken at Niagara Falls last summer. Her laughing as mist from the falls caught the sunlight in her hair. "Sarah?" I typed. The woman on screen finally looked up and I saw her face clearly for the first time. It wasn't Sarah, but something about her features seemed familiar, like seeing a distant relative you've never met but somehow recognize. "She misses you," the woman whispered. "They all miss you." The viewer count had climbed to 23, but the usernames in the chat were becoming more personal. Mom Still Cares, a Grandpa Joe Waves, Little Sister Emily. These were people from my life, people who cared about me, but several of them were impossible. My grandfather had died when I was 12. My sister Emily lived in Vancouver and didn't even have TikTok. "This isn't real," I muttered to myself, but I couldn't look away. The woman stood up slowly, her movements unnaturally smooth. As she walked closer to the camera, the candles behind her flickered more violently, casting her shadow across the entire frame. When she spoke again, her voice seemed to come from right beside my ear. "Pain calls to pain, Tyler. Your loneliness has been so loud we couldn't help but notice." I felt tears starting to form. The breakup had left me feeling invisible, like I didn't matter to anyone. Work had become mechanical. Friends felt distant, and even my own reflection seemed to avoid eye contact. But here, in this strange digital space, I felt seen. "Who are we?" I typed. "We're the ones who understand, the ones who've been watching, the ones who care when no one else does." More usernames appeared. A co-worker Jenna, a high school friend Mark, a teacher Mrs. Wilson. The list grew, longer, encompassing people I hadn't thought about in years. Each username felt like a small validation, proof that I had mattered to someone, somewhere, at some point in my life. The woman was now so close to the camera that her face filled the entire screen. Her eyes were completely black, like looking into deep water at night. "We want to show you something special," she whispered. "But first, you need to prove you're ready." A notification popped up on my screen, a private message from our Whispers Softly. Inside was an address in my city, along with a simple message: "Come alone, come now, come home." My rational mind screamed warnings. This was obviously a trap, AR scam, something dangerous. But the loneliness was louder than reason. The validation from all those familiar usernames felt like warm water on frostbitten skin. I wanted to belong somewhere, to matter to someone. I grabbed Mike's car keys from the kitchen counter, leaving a note that I'd gone for a drive. The address led me across town to an abandoned strip mall. Most of the storefronts were dark, but one still had power, a small space that might have once been a cell phone repair shop. Soft candlelight glowed through newspaper-covered windows. Sat in the car for 10 minutes, engine running, debating whether to go inside. My phone buzzed with a new comment from the live stream. "We can see you, Tyler. We're so proud you came." I looked around the empty parking lot. No other cars, no signs of life anywhere. But somehow, they could see me. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the space had been cleared except for dozens of candles arranged in a perfect circle. In the center sat a single phone on a tripod, streaming live to the same TikTok account. But there was no woman, no mysterious host. Just the phone, recording an empty room. As I approached, my own face appeared on the screen. I was now the star of the live stream, and the chat was going wild with excitement. All those familiar usernames were celebrating my arrival, telling me how proud they were, how much they loved me. That's when I noticed the viewer count. 1. Just one person watching, despite dozens of comments flying by. I spun around, checking every corner of the empty room. I was completely alone. "Hello, Tyler," came a voice from directly behind me. I turned to find myself face to face with my own reflection, but it was wrong. The reflection was smiling while I was terrified. It was moving independently, waving at me like an old friend. "We've been using your loneliness as a doorway," my reflection explained. "Every night you scroll in the dark, every moment you feel invisible, you invite us in a little deeper." The candles around me began to flicker out one by one. In the growing darkness, I could see other figures emerging, distorted versions of everyone I'd ever missed, everyone I'd ever wanted to notice me. They reached out with impossible arms, their faces shifting between familiar and monstrous. "Stay with us," they whispered in unison. "Here, you'll never be alone again." But as their cold fingers touched my skin, I felt something worse than loneliness. I felt completely empty. They weren't offering connection. They were feeding on my need for it. I grabbed the phone from the tripod and smashed it against the concrete floor, shattering the screen. The figures screamed and dissolved like smoke. The candles went out all at once, plunging me into absolute darkness. I ran, burst through the door, jumped in the car, and drove home without stopping. When I checked my phone later, whispers softly had vanished completely. No trace of the account, no record of the live stream. But sometimes late at night when I'm scrolling alone, I see familiar usernames in comment sections. People who shouldn't have TikTok accounts, people who shouldn't be anywhere at all. They're still watching, still waiting. And I've learned that loneliness isn't just an emotion. Sometimes it's an invitation. I was going through one of the worst periods of my life. My dad had passed away suddenly from a heart attack, leaving me to sort through decades of his belongings while trying to process my grief. The funeral was over, relatives had gone home, and I was alone in his house, surrounded by boxes and memories I wasn't ready to face. Sleep had become impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him lying in that hospital bed, machines beeping around him until they suddenly went silent. So I'd taken to staying up all night, mindlessly scrolling through TikTok until exhaustion finally claimed me around dawn. That's how I found the video at 3:23 a.m. on a Tuesday night. It appeared in my For You page with no warning, no context. The thumbnail showed a grainy black and white image of what looked like an old home movie. The username was WMemoryKeeper1987, and the caption simply read, "Found this in my grandfather's attic. Does anyone recognize this family?" The video quality was terrible, clearly filmed decades ago on some kind of vintage camera. It showed a family barbecue in someone's backyard, a man flipping burgers while a woman set a picnic table. Two children ran around playing tag, their laughter barely audible through the static. What made me freeze wasn't the poor video quality or the nostalgic aesthetic. It was the backyard. I recognized that wooden fence, the placement of the oak tree, even the distinctive brick pattern on the patio. It was my dad's house, my childhood home, but that was impossible. The video was clearly from the 1980s based on the clothing and hairstyles, but my family didn't move into that house until 1995. I was born in 1998, so this couldn't be us. Yet everything about the scene felt familiar in a way that made my skin crawl. I watched it 3 more times, trying to convince myself I was wrong. The man cooking looked nothing like my father. He was shorter, broader, with dark hair instead of my dad's sandy brown. The woman was too young to be my mother, and those children were probably 8 and 10 years old. But something about their movements, their gestures, felt like looking at ghosts of my own memories. I scrolled to the comments hoping for some explanation. Most were typical TikTok responses, people claiming they recognized the family or making jokes about the video quality. But one comment made my blood run cold. That's the Henderson family. They all died in that house in 1987. Gas leak. The comment was from Boar Truth Teller in 91, an account with no profile picture and no other videos. When I clicked on their profile, it showed 0 followers, 0 following, but hundreds of comments scattered across various videos, all containing eerily specific details about tragedies and deaths. I Googled Henderson family 1987 gas leak along with my address. Nothing came up. No news articles, no obituaries, no record of any family by that name ever living in the house. But when I refreshed TikTok, there was another video from the Memory Keeper 1987. This one showed the same family, but something was wrong. The father was still cooking, the mother still setting the table, but their movements were slightly off. Too repetitive, like a loop that wasn't quite seamless. The children weren't playing anymore. They stood perfectly still in the background, facing the camera. The caption read, "Day 2. Something's not right here." Day 2? The first video had been posted only an hour ago. I checked the timestamp. It showed this new video was uploaded 2 days ago, even though I'd never seen it before. As I watched, the father at the grill slowly turned toward the camera. His face was completely obscured by shadow, but I could feel him looking directly at me through the screen. The woman stopped arranging plates and did the same. Then the children. All 4 family members stood motionless, facing the camera, their features lost in grainy darkness. My hands were shaking as I scrolled to the comments. The same Our Truth Teller 91 had written, "They know you're watching, David. My name is David. My full name isn't anywhere on my TikTok profile." I tried to click away from the video, but my phone had frozen. The family on screen remained perfectly still, waiting. I could hear something through my earbuds, not the static from the video, but a sound like gas hissing through pipes. Finally, my phone unfroze, and I immediately blocked Memory Keeper 1987. When I searched for the account again, it had vanished completely. No videos, no profile, like it had never existed. But the smell of gas lingered in my dad's house. I spent the next hour checking every gas appliance, every connection. The stove, water heater, furnace, everything was fine. The smell seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere, growing stronger as I moved through the rooms. By sunrise, exhaustion finally overcame paranoia, and I fell asleep on the couch. Woke up to my phone buzzing incessantly. Notifications from TikTok were pouring in, dozens of them. When I opened the app, I found that Memory Keeper 1987 was back, and they'd been posting videos all night. There were 12 new videos, each showing the same backyard scene but from different angles and time periods. Some looked like they were from the 70s, others from the 90s, a few appeared recent. In each one, different families lived in my house. The Hendersons, the Martins, the Coopers, names I'd never heard, but that felt familiar anyway. Every family looked happy at first. Children playing, parents laughing, normal domestic life. But in each video, something would go wrong. A child would disappear mid-play. A parent would stop moving entirely. Faces would turn toward the camera with expressions of pure terror. The final video was different. It was in color, high definition, clearly filmed recently. It showed my dad's house exactly as it looked now. Boxes stacked in the living room, my clothes scattered around, the half-eaten pizza I'd ordered the night before still sitting on the kitchen counter. And there I was, sleeping on the couch, my phone still in my hand. The video had been filmed from inside the house from an angle that should have been impossible. No one else had keys. The doors had been locked all night. As I watched myself sleep on screen, a figure emerged from the shadows behind the couch. It was translucent, flickering like old film, but I could make out features that belonged to every family that had appeared in the previous videos. The Henderson father's broad shoulders, the Martin mother's gentle smile, the Cooper children's bright eyes, all merged into something that wasn't quite human. The figure leaned down toward my sleeping form and whispered something I couldn't hear through the video's audio. But on screen, I watched my sleeping self smile and nod as if agreeing to something. The comments on this video were different. Instead of random usernames, they were all from accounts named after the families. Henderson Dad, 1987. A. Martin Mom, 1993. A. Cooper Kids, 2001. They all said the same thing. "Welcome home, David. We've been waiting for you." I ran to my dad's bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. I looked normal, but something felt wrong. My reflection seemed delayed, moving just a fraction of a second after I did. When I raised my hand, my reflection hesitated, then slowly lifted its hand higher than mine. That's when I noticed the gas smell was strongest in the bathroom. I called a professional immediately, a gas company technician, who found nothing wrong with any of the lines or appliances. He looked at me like I was crazy when I insisted something was leaking. The smell was so strong I could barely breathe, but he couldn't detect anything. After he left, I went back to TikTok one last time. Memory Keeper 1987 had posted a final video. It was just text on a black screen. "Every house has a history, David. Every family leaves something behind. Your dad knew about us. Why do you think he never talked about the house's past? We're not trying to hurt you. We just want to be remembered." The video ended with an old photograph I'd never seen before. My dad is a young man standing in front of the same house, shaking hands with a realtor. But in the background, barely visible in the window, were the silhouettes of the Henderson family watching. I left that night and never went back. I hired a company to pack up my dad's belongings and put the house on the market. It sold within a week to a young couple with 2 children. I wanted to warn them, but what would I say? The Memory Keeper 1987 account has never appeared in my feed again. But sometimes, late at night when I'm scrolling, I see familiar houses in random videos. Other people's childhood homes, other families' tragedies, other memories that were supposed to stay buried. And I know that somewhere out there, in houses across the country, people are discovering videos they were never meant to see, learning histories they were never meant to know. The dead don't rest easy in our digital age. They found new ways to be remembered, new platforms to haunt. So the next time you see a mysterious video in your feed, something that feels a little too familiar, a little too personal, maybe don't watch it. Some memories are better left forgotten. I'd been dating Emma for 8 months and everything felt perfect. She was kind, funny, spontaneous. The kind of person who'd surprise me with homemade cookies or drag me out for midnight walks just because the stars looked pretty. We met at a coffee shop in downtown Portland where she worked as a barista, and I fell for her infectious laugh before I even knew her name. Emma claimed she hated social media. "It's all fake," she'd say, whenever I showed her funny TikToks or Instagram posts. People pretending to be something they're not. She didn't have accounts on any platform, or so I thought. While I scrolled through my feeds, she'd read books or sketch in her journal, always staying present, always engaged with the real world. It made me admire her even more. The discovery happened by accident. I was lying in her apartment one Tuesday night, scrolling through TikTok while she showered. Her phone was charging on the nightstand beside me when it lit up with a notification. I glanced over without thinking, just a reflex, and saw a comment notification from TikTok. "Our Midnight Emma 7. Someone replied to your comment." My blood went cold. Emma didn't have TikTok. She'd made that abundantly clear dozens of times. But there was her phone, showing a notification from an account that shared her name. I told myself, it was probably spam, maybe some random account using a similar name, but curiosity got the better of me. When she came out of the bathroom, hair wrapped in a towel, I casually asked, "Hey, did you know someone's using your name on TikTok?" Her face went completely pale. For just a moment, I saw something in her, eyes that I'd never seen before. Panic, followed quickly by what looked like calculation. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. "I saw a notification on your phone. Something about a comment on an account called Midnight Emma number 7. She laughed, but it sounded forced. "Oh, that. It's probably just spam. You know how these apps are, they send notifications to random phone numbers to try to get people to sign up." Her explanation made sense, but something felt off. Emma was a terrible liar. She'd blush and stumble over her words whenever she tried to surprise me or hide a gift. But this felt different. She was too composed, too ready with an answer. That night, after she fell asleep, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I opened TikTok and searched for Midnight Emma 7, the sake. Account existed. The profile picture was a silhouette against a window, impossible to identify but somehow familiar in its posture. The bio read, "Some secrets are meant to be shared in the dark." There were dozens of videos, all posted late at night, all filmed in dim lighting. I clicked on the most recent one. The video showed someone's hands folding origami cranes in low lamplight. No face, no voice, just the methodical process of paper folding. But I recognized those hands immediately. The small scar on the left ring finger from a childhood accident. The way the pinky bent slightly from an old break. They were Emma's hands. My heart pounded as I scrolled through more videos. Paper folding, candle making, sketching in dim light. All activities I'd seen Emma do countless times. But there were other videos too, stranger ones. Long shots of empty streets at 3 a.m. Close-ups of locked doors and darkened windows. Videos filmed from outside apartment buildings, the camera slowly panning up floor by floor. The comments were what really disturbed me. Hundreds of them, from accounts with generic names like Nightwatcher23 and Silent Follower. They weren't typical TikTok comments. Instead, they read like a community of people sharing secrets. Watched her leave for work this morning. Same routine, as always. The light in 4B stays on until exactly 11:47 p.m. every night. She ordered Chinese food again, third time this week. I realized with growing horror that these weren't random observations. They were surveillance reports. People were watching other people and sharing details about their daily lives, their habits, their routines, and Emma was part of it. I spent the next hour going through every video, every comment. The account had been active for over 2 years, long before I'd met Emma. Some videos showed locations I recognized. The coffee shop where she worked, the park where we'd had our first date, even the street outside my own apartment building. But the video that made my blood turn to ice was posted just 3 weeks ago. It was filmed from across the street from my apartment, looking up at my bedroom window. The timestamp showed 2:17 a.m., a night I clearly remembered. Emma had said she was working a late shift and couldn't come over. But there she was, or at least someone with her build and hair standing motionless on the sidewalk, filming my dark window. The caption read, "Some people sleep so peacefully when they don't know they're being watched." I wanted to wake her up immediately to confront her, but something held me back. Instead, I screenshot everything and quietly left her apartment. I needed time to think, to figure out what I was dealing with. At home, I couldn't sleep. Every shadow outside my window looked like a person. Every small sound made me jump. I'd been living in a relationship built on lies, but worse than that, I'd been living under surveillance without knowing it. The next morning, Emma texted like nothing had happened. "Good morning, babe. Want to grab breakfast?" I agreed to meet, her planning to confront her about the account. But when I arrived at our usual diner, she was already there, sketching in her journal. She looked up with that same bright smile that had made me fall for her, and for a moment, I wondered if I'd imagined everything. "You look tired," she said, reaching across to touch my hand. "Everything okay?" "Actually, I need to ask you something." I pulled out my phone and showed her the TikTok account. "Is this you?" Her expression didn't change at all. She looked at the screen calmly, then back at me with those same warm brown eyes. "Yes," she said simply. I'd expected denial, anger, tears, something, but her casual admission was somehow more terrifying than any lie would have been. "Why?" I asked. "Because people are interesting when they think nobody's watching," she replied, still holding my hand. "You learn who they really are. Their real routines, their real habits, their real selves." "But Emma, this is stalking, this is research," she interrupted gently. "Do you know how many people live their entire lives performing for others? Always putting on shows, always pretending. But late at night when they think they're alone, that's when truth comes out." I pulled my hand away. "You've been watching me." "I've been understanding you," she corrected. "Did you know you pace when you're anxious? You walked back and forth in front of your window for 20 minutes the night before you asked me to be your girlfriend. And you talk to yourself when you cook. Full conversations like someone's listening." The intimacy of these observations made me feel sick. She'd been collecting details about my private moments, cataloging my vulnerabilities. "Who else knows about this?" I asked. "It's a community," she said, her eyes lighting up like she was talking about a hobby. "People who understand that real connection comes from real knowledge. Surface-level dating is so shallow, don't you think? But when you truly know someone's patterns, their habits, their unguarded moments, that's when you can love them completely." I realized she genuinely believed this was normal, even romantic. In her mind, stalking was just thorough research, surveillance was simply caring enough to pay attention. "The other people in the comments," I pressed, "are they watching their partners too?" "Some are, others are building profiles for future relationships. It's very organized. We share information, compare notes, help each other understand human behavior patterns." She spoke about it like a book club or a gardening group, something wholesome and communal. But I was hearing about a network of stalkers, people who'd turned surveillance into social media entertainment. "Emma, this is illegal. This is terrifying." For the first time, her expression shifted. The warmth in her eyes cooled, replaced by something calculating. "You're overreacting," she said. "I've never hurt anyone. I just observe. I document. I understand. Isn't that what love is supposed to be about? Truly knowing someone?" I left the diner without another word. That afternoon, I packed a bag and went to stay with my brother across town. I blocked Emma's number, deleted social media apps, and spent the next week trying to figure out how to report what I'd discovered. But when I went to the police, they said observing people from public spaces wasn't technically illegal unless it involved direct threats or harassment. The TikTok account had been deleted by the time I tried to show them. Emma had vanished from all digital platforms, like she'd never existed online at all. She tried calling from different numbers, leaving voicemails that sounded perfectly normal. "Hey babe, I miss you. Call me back." As if nothing had happened, as if I'd never discovered her secret world. The last voicemail was different. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "You can't hide forever, David. I know your patterns now. I know your new routine. You think changing locations changes anything, but people are predictable. I'll be watching." That was 6 weeks ago. I've moved twice since then, changed jobs, altered my daily routines completely. But sometimes, late at night, I see the same car parked across the street. Sometimes my neighbors mention seeing someone, asking questions about me. Sometimes I get friend requests from accounts with no photos, no information, just generic names. The worst part isn't wondering if Emma is still watching me. The worst part is knowing that somewhere out there there's an entire community of people who think this is normal. People who believe that love means surveillance, that understanding someone requires violating their privacy. So if you're dating someone who claims to hate social media, someone who seems to know a little too much about your habits, someone who shows up at the right place at exactly the right time a little too often, Maybe check if they have accounts you don't know about. Because some secrets aren't just personal quirks or harmless hobbies. Sometimes they're warnings. I was going through a rough patch after losing my job at the marketing firm. Budget cuts, they said, but I knew it was really about my performance slipping after months of anxiety and insomnia. I'd been living off my savings in my cramped Chicago apartment, spending most nights scrolling through TikTok until dawn, trying to quiet the constant worry about my future. That's how I discovered live streaming. Not watching them, hosting them. It started innocently enough. I'd go live around 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep, just talking to whoever wandered into the stream. Sometimes it was 3 people, sometimes 30. We'd discuss random topics, movies, music, conspiracy theories, whatever came up. It gave me a sense of connection during a time when I felt completely isolated from the world. My username was a late show Jake, and I'd built up a small but loyal following of fellow night owls. There was Sleepless in Seattle, and Night Shift Nurse, and Batmom, regulars, who'd join nearly every stream. They felt like friends, people who understood what it was like to be awake when the rest of the world was sleeping. Everything changed on a Tuesday night in late October. I'd gone live around 2:30 a.m. as usual, planning to chat about a documentary I'd watched earlier. But when the stream started, something was immediately wrong. Instead of my usual handful of viewers, I had over 200 people watching within the first minute. The number kept climbing. 300, 500, 800. Holy shit, I said, watching. The viewer count skyrocket. Where did you all come from? The comments were flying by too fast to read, but I caught glimpses. Finally found you. We've been waiting. The chosen stream. None of it made sense, but the attention felt good after months of feeling invisible. Then I noticed something strange. The usernames in the chat weren't random combinations of letters and numbers like typical TikTok handles. They were oddly specific. A watching from basement, under your bed, A behind the closet door, E from the attic. As more people joined, the names became increasingly unsettling. See through your window, E breathing in your walls, E waiting in your hallway. Okay guys, I laughed nervously. These usernames are getting pretty creepy. What's the theme here? The comments that followed made my blood run cold. Look behind you, Jake. Check the kitchen. We can see you even when you can't see us. Turn around, turn around, turn around. I was sitting with my back to my apartment, facing the camera I'd set up on my coffee table. My living room opened into a small kitchen, and beyond that was a hallway leading to my bedroom and bathroom. I'd lived there for 2 years and knew every creak, every sound the old building made. But as I read those comments, I became acutely aware of the space behind me. Very funny, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Nice try with the scare tactics. But the viewer count kept climbing, 1-200, 1-500, 1-800, and the comments were becoming more specific. The shadow by your refrigerator moved. Something's in your hallway. Jake, you need to see what's behind you. Don't turn around. Don't. Look, just run. My apartment suddenly felt enormous and full of hiding places. I'd never noticed how many dark corners there were, how many spots someone could conceivably stand without being visible from my position. Look, I don't know what kind of prank this is, I said, but my voice was shaking now. But you're not going to scare me in my own home. That's when I heard it. A soft sound from somewhere behind me, like fabric brushing against a wall. I froze. The chat exploded with activity. He heard it. It's moving. Behind the kitchen counter. Get out. Get out. Every instinct told me not to turn around, but I had to know. I slowly rotated in my chair, keeping the camera running, and looked into my kitchen. Nothing. Just the familiar sight of my small galley kitchen, dimly lit by the glow from my living room. When I turned back to the camera, the comments had changed. It's not in the kitchen anymore. It's closer now. Look at your viewer count, Jake. I glanced at the number. 3,947 people watching. Nearly 4,000 strangers were staring at me through their phones. And somehow they claimed to see things in my apartment that I couldn't. "What exactly do you all think you're seeing?" I asked. The response was immediate and unanimous. "The figure in your hallway. It's been there for 10 minutes. Tall, dark, standing perfectly still. It's watching you through the camera." My hallway was directly behind me, about 15 feet away. If someone was there, they'd been standing motionless in the dark while I streamed, watching me perform for an audience I couldn't see. I grabbed my phone, keeping the live stream running on my laptop, and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness of my hallway, illuminating the narrow space between my bedroom and bathroom doors. Empty. But when I turned back to the stream, the chat had erupted in panic. "It moved when you looked. It's in your bedroom now. We saw it duck into the doorway. Jake, get out of there." Nearly 4,000 people were telling me there was someone in my apartment, someone moving just out of my sight, always one step ahead of where I looked. But I was alone. I had to be alone. "Okay, I'm going to prove to you all that there's nothing here," I said, trying to project confidence I didn't feel. "I'm going to check every room." I picked up my laptop, keeping the stream live, and walked through my apartment methodically. Bedroom, empty. Closet, nothing but clothes. Bathroom, just my own reflection in the mirror, looking pale and terrified. Kitchen, every cabinet, every corner, completely vacant. But the comments never stopped. "It's always just behind you. When you check the bedroom, it goes to the kitchen. When you check the kitchen, it moves to the bathroom. It's playing a game with you." I sat back down, setting the laptop on the coffee table. My hands were trembling as I read comment after comment describing a figure that was supposedly moving through my apartment like a shadow, always just out of view. "There's nothing here," I said, but even I could hear the doubt in my voice. "You're all just trying to scare me." That's when we're watching from basement typed something that made my heart stop. "Check the view count now, Jake." I looked. 5,672 viewers. "Now look at your front door," they continued. I turned toward my apartment door, visible from my position on the couch. It was closed, locked with both the deadbolt and chain exactly as I'd left it. But underneath the door, I could see shadows moving in the hallway outside. Feet. Multiple sets of feet, standing perfectly still just outside my apartment. The chat went wild. "They're here. They're outside. All 5,672 of them. We told you we could see you." I crept toward the door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but I could still see the shadows of feet beneath the door, as if people were standing there but somehow invisible to the peepholes. View. When I returned to the stream, the viewer count had jumped to over 8,000. "This isn't possible," I whispered. "This is just some kind of glitch, some kind of coordinated trolling." But as I spoke, I heard sounds from all around my apartment. Soft knocking on windows, scratching at the walls, the gentle sound of someone trying door handles. The comments were celebratory now. "The ritual is working. He's starting to see. The stream is opening the gateway. Welcome to the real world, Jake." That's when I understood. This wasn't a normal live stream. Somehow, some way, these viewers weren't just watching me. They were projecting themselves into my space. The stream was acting as a bridge, allowing thousands of strangers to manifest around me in ways that shouldn't be possible. I reached for my laptop to end the stream, but my hand passed right through the keyboard. I tried again, but I couldn't touch it. The laptop, the camera, the entire setup had become incorporeal, as if it existed in a different dimension from my physical space. The sounds were getting louder now, windows rattling, doors creaking, footsteps in the walls themselves. And through it all, the viewer count kept climbing. 12,000, 15,000, 20,000. I ran to my bedroom and slammed the door, but I could hear my own voice still streaming from the living room. The stream was continuing without me, showing an empty couch while thousands of people typed about what they could see in my apartment. I called 911 from my bedroom, but when the operator answered, I could hear my voice echoing through the phone. The same voice that was still live streaming in the other room. "1, What's your emergency? There are people in my apartment, I said. Sir, you're live streaming right now. We can see you on TikTok. You appear to be alone. They could see the stream. The whole world could see me talking to empty rooms while claiming I was surrounded by intruders. I hung up and sat on my bed, listening to the sounds of thousands of invisible people moving through my apartment. The stream was still running, still broadcasting, and I couldn't stop it. That's when I realized the truth. I wasn't broadcasting to 20,000 viewers. I was trapped in a stream being watched by 20,000 versions of myself from parallel realities, and they were all trying to cross over into mine. The knocking stopped. The scratching ceased. My apartment fell, silent. When I emerged from the bedroom, the laptop was gone. The camera was gone. There was no evidence that I'd ever been live streaming at all. But on my phone, Late Show, Jake was still broadcasting. I could see myself from the camera's perspective, standing in my living room looking confused and terrified. I was watching myself live on TikTok, but I wasn't the one streaming. I am the viewer now. And somewhere, in another version of reality, another Jake is reading comments from all watching from my reality, trying to figure out why thousands of people are telling him to look behind him. The stream never ends. It just changes perspective. It started 3 weeks ago when I was mindlessly scrolling through my For You page at 1:30 a.m. I'd been having trouble sleeping since my breakup with Madison. She'd moved out of our shared apartment in Denver, taking half the furniture and most of my sense of security with her. The empty spaces in our place felt like missing teeth, constant reminders of what used to be there. That's when I first saw the video from A Night Walk Denver. The clip was only 15 seconds long. A shaky handheld, shot walking down a residential street at night. Street lamps created pools of orange light while shadows stretched between them like dark fingers. The caption simply read, 3 a.m. walks hit different. Nothing unusual about it. Hundreds of people post late-night walking videos. But something about the street looked familiar, though I couldn't place why. The video had only 37 views and 3 likes, clearly from a small account with no real following. I almost scrolled past, but then I noticed the location tag, Downtown Denver, CO. I live in downtown Denver. The familiar feeling suddenly made sense. This person was walking around my neighborhood in the middle of the night filming their journey for TikTok. I clicked on Our Night Walk Denver's profile. The account was only 2 days old with just that one video. No profile picture, no bio, no other content. A completely anonymous night walker documenting their 3 a.m. adventures in my city. The next night, I found myself checking the account before bed. There was a new video posted at 3:17 a.m. This one showed a different street, but still clearly in downtown Denver. The walking pace was the same, slow, deliberate, like someone taking their time to observe their surroundings. The phone's camera occasionally drifted up toward apartment windows, most of them dark at that late hour. By the third night, I was actively looking for new posts from Nightwalk Denver. The pattern was consistent. One video per night, always posted between 3 and 3:30 a.m., always showing a different section of downtown Denver. But on night 4, everything changed. The new video showed a street I recognized immediately, Champa Street, just 2 blocks from my apartment. The timestamp showed it was filmed at 3:22 a.m., and I realized this person had been walking around my neighborhood while I was lying awake in bed, unable to sleep. In the video, the camera panned slowly across a row of apartment buildings. When it reached a brown brick complex with green awnings, it lingered for a moment longer than the others. My heart dropped. That was my building. I watched the video 5 more times, trying to convince myself I was wrong. But there was no mistaking the distinctive architecture, the broken streetlight out front, the small coffee shop on the ground floor. Nightwalk Denver had filmed my building and chosen to focus on it specifically. The comments were sparse. Just a few people saying things like "love the vibe" and "stay safe out there." But one comment made my skin crawl. Getting warmer, like it was some kind of game, some kind of hunt. Night 5 brought a video filmed from the alley behind my building. The camera showed the back entrance, the dumpsters, the fire escape that led up to the floors above. My apartment was on the 3rd floor, and for a brief moment the camera tilted up toward what I was pretty sure was my bedroom window. The caption read, "Some interesting architecture back here." I screenshot the video and spent an hour analyzing every frame. The person filming seemed to know exactly where to point the camera, like they'd scouted the location beforehand. They lingered on specific windows, specific doorways, as if cataloging entry points. That night, I barely slept. Every small sound made me jump. The building settling, neighbors moving around, the elevator humming between floors. I kept checking the account obsessively, waiting for the next video to drop. At 3:24 a.m. it appeared. This time, Nightwalk Denver was inside my building. The video showed the lobby from the perspective of someone who'd somehow gained access. The camera panned across the mailboxes, the elevator buttons, the directory listing all the apartment numbers and resident names. When it reached 3C J. Morrison, it stopped and zoomed in. That was my apartment, my name. The comments section had grown. Getting close now. Almost there. He doesn't even know yet. The pronouns made my blood run cold. These weren't random TikTok users stumbling across the videos. They were followers who understood exactly what was happening. Participants in whatever game A Nightwalk Denver was playing. I called the building management first thing in the morning, reporting that someone had gained unauthorized access to film in the lobby. They promised to review security footage and change the entry codes, but their response felt inadequate given what I was experiencing. Night 7 brought the most terrifying video yet. Nightwalk Denver had made it to my floor. The video showed the 3rd floor hallway moving slowly past each apartment door. When it reached 3C, my door, the camera stopped. For 10 long seconds, it focused on my apartment number, my nameplate, the small welcome mat I'd bought when Madison and I first moved in together. Then I heard something that made my heart nearly stop. The sound of someone trying my door handle. In the video, I could see a hand reach into frame and slowly turn the handle. It didn't open. I always kept it locked. But the deliberate testing of my door felt like a violation beyond anything I'd experienced. The caption was simple. So close I can almost taste it. The comments section had exploded with activity. Dozens of accounts were cheering on O Nightwalk Denver, offering suggestions, sharing their excitement about the progress. It wasn't one person stalking me. It was an entire community invested in my harassment. I went to the police that morning with screenshots of every video. The officer was sympathetic but explained that filming in public spaces wasn't illegal, and even the building lobby footage might not constitute criminal behavior without clear evidence of intent to harm. "Has this person made any direct threats?" she asked. "No, but they're obviously building up to something. Each night they get physically closer to my apartment. Let us know if they make contact or if you feel you're in immediate danger." I spent that day installing additional locks, buying a security camera for my door, and researching how to get a restraining order against someone I couldn't identify. But Nightwalk Denver was just getting started. Night 8. A video filmed from inside the stairwell showing the view through the small window of my apartment door. The camera captured my living room lamp, the edge of my couch, the television I'd left on for company. They could see inside my apartment. Night 9. Footage from the fire escape outside my bedroom window. The angle suggested they'd climbed up from the alley, and the video showed my bedroom clearly. My bed, my dresser, the pile of laundry I'd been meaning to fold. At one point, a shadow moved across the frame. My shadow. I was in the video without knowing I was being filmed. Night 10. The sound of someone trying my window latch. I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat in my living room with a baseball bat, checking the TikTok account every few minutes, watching my stalker document their escalating intrusions. The comment section had become a cheerleading squad, pushing O Nightwalk Denver to make contact and finish what you started. At 3:31 a.m., the newest video appeared, but this time, it wasn't filmed from outside my apartment. It was filmed from inside. The video showed my kitchen from an angle that should have been impossible. The camera moved through my apartment slowly, cataloging my belongings, my furniture, my personal space. It lingered on photos of Madison and me, on mail with my full name and address, on my work laptop sitting open on the dining table. In the final seconds of the video, the camera turned toward my living room, where I sat frozen, on my couch staring at my phone in terror. I was in the frame watching myself being filmed, but I was completely alone in my apartment. The video showed an empty room with no one holding the camera. I ran to every room, checking behind every door, in every closet, under the bed. My apartment was empty. The windows were locked, the door was secured with 3 deadbolts, and there was no possible way someone could have gotten inside. But the video clearly showed the inside of my apartment from angles that no security camera could capture, with movements that suggested a person walking through my space. The comments were ecstatic. Finally inside. This is the best episode yet. Can't wait for tomorrow night. Episode. They were treating my terror like entertainment, my stalking like a television series. I packed a bag and went to stay with my brother across town. From his guest room, I continued monitoring Night Walk Denver's account, watching as they posted videos from inside my empty apartment. Night after night, the camera moved through rooms I wasn't in, opening cabinets I hadn't touched, reading mail I hadn't opened. But the most terrifying video came on night 14. It showed my brother's house. The camera walked slowly up his driveway, past his car, toward the front door where I'd been hiding for 4 days. The caption read, "Found you again." I realized then that a Night Walk Denver wasn't just stalking me physically. They were somehow tracking my digital presence, my location data, my every movement through the city. Every time I checked their account, I was giving them more information about where I was and how to find me, but I couldn't stop watching. The account had become an addiction, a compulsion. I needed to see what they would do next, how close they would get, when they would finally make direct contact. That's when I understood the truth. Night Walk Denver wasn't an external stalker. The account was posting videos I didn't remember filming, showing places I didn't remember going, documenting actions I didn't remember taking. But the walking pace was familiar. The timestamps matched periods when I couldn't sleep, when I'd lost hours of the night without explanation. I was Night Walk Denver. I'd been sleepwalking through Denver for 2 weeks, filming myself getting closer and closer to my own apartment, stalking myself without any conscious awareness. The community of commenters weren't cheering on a stranger. They were encouraging my dissociative episodes, feeding off my mental breakdown. The videos from inside my apartment were filmed by me during fugue states I couldn't remember. The escalating proximity wasn't someone hunting me down. It was my own subconscious mind creating elaborate scenarios to explain my deteriorating psychological state. But knowing the truth didn't make it less terrifying. Because even now, even after figuring it out, I still can't stop checking the account. Every night at 3:30 a.m. there's a new video, and every morning I wake up with no memory of making it. The comments keep cheering me on. Getting closer. Almost there. Can't wait to see what happens next. And the worst part is, neither can I. Last night's video showed me standing outside my brother's guest room door, filming myself sleeping. I don't remember doing it, but I can't wait to see tonight's episode.